या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निशेषजाड्यापः हरि ओम हरि ओम हरि ओम हरि ओम. Thank you. So I hope that was audible clearly. If it's a yes, then I will go ahead with my yes. Okay. Thank you. So ma'am, can I start? I'll start. Okay. So good evening to all the senior musicians, elders, young aspiring artists and audience present in this meeting. I take immense pleasure in sitting in front of you all today amidst such talented musicians, and I'm so honored to have been given this opportunity to be part of this event. I thank Sarita Auntie and the whole team of Udupi Shining Stars for bringing me here. So I felt extremely comfortable accepting this opportunity, mainly because I realized that I'm nearly of the same age as most of y'all over here. So I have probably just walked out of the phase that y'all are in right now. So I hope this entire talk is something that you can relate to and something that you can learn from. I hope there are things that excite you and inspire you. And I'm proud to call myself an Udupi product. I was born in Udupi, and it's also my holiday home because my grandmother and grandfather lived there, and I keep visiting. And I love the place, and I love being called here as an Udupi artist. So without further ado, I would like to start my talk. And since it's all musical based, let's see what the most common question people would ask me is. So since I'm a musician, they would say, what's music to you? What does it mean to you? And to answer that question, I have my entire presentation ready. But to answer another question, that is, what do you identify yourself as? So what kind of singer do I identify myself as? I would call myself a multi-genre vocalist. And by the word multi-genre, I not only mean that I sing different genres, to name a few: Western, folk, light, Carnatic. Yes, I do sing all of these. But what I mean by multi-genre is that I sort of merge all these art forms and come up with a completely new product, something unique to myself and something that only I think I can bring out in this particular way. I believe that I bring out the positives of all these different worlds, put them together, just like how we are a mix of our parents, right? So we're not taking just a few things from here and there. We're taking positives, negatives, mixing it up, and then we're a different person altogether. So that's what my idea of fusion is. I tried to mix all the worlds. I use techniques from each genre and put it into the other genre and make a new whole organism out of it. And that's what y'all are going to see today. And that's my journey that led me to understand what fusion meant to me. The word fusion, you'll soon understand the meaning that I have given it over my conversation today. So I'm going to share my screen right now. I have a few video clips that I would like to show you. Just give me a moment. Okay. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. As you can see, I've named this The Beginning. So I was tiny over here, and this was my first Carnatic concert, I would call it. Of course, I'm just singing a simple song, but to me at that point, it was a kacheri altogether. I assumed that I was giving a kacheri. And I'll play a small clip of this because this is step one of my musical journey in the field of Carnatic music, where I had understood that there are 7 swarams, sarigama padanisa, and hears me singing. Okay, so that was just a small clip of how I used to sing at that age. And at this point, I had understood what swarams were. So I knew Sarigama Padanisa, okay, this is Carnatic Sangeeta class. I had been put into Sangeeta class just like most of the Tamilian families put their kids into Sangeeta class at that age. Fortunately, I was one of the few who actually enjoyed it. So I continued to learn and I didn't stop halfway through. And over the years, that led me to
Alapana,
understand.
Just a minute. Minute. Put it on a slideshow so that we can see it on the whole screen.
Yes, sorry. I'll do that. Okay. So, as I was saying, over the years, we started learning, and in school events especially, we had competitions that had light music competition, Carnatic music competition, Western music competition. So I was also introduced to Disney movies and Barbie movies and cartoons that had songs that were completely different from my Carnatic class songs like Kirtanams and Geetam. And I was wondering why they sound so similar yet so different in the form of lyrics and the accent, and something sounded extremely interesting to me. I wanted to know how, I can connect these two worlds. Why can't I connect the English songs to my Carnatic songs? But I was still too young to realize that I actually could. So instead, what I did was, for light music competitions, for example, I would take songs that sounded similar to me, not knowing that I was doing this based on a raga, but I would take songs that sounded similar on the similar frequency, like, according to the sound of it. And I'd put it together. I'd just mix it, choose different lines and mix it, and I'll call it a medley. And as much as that's very common nowadays, when I was younger, it was pretty rare. And that's what made me stand out from the rest, okay? So I'll give you a small example of what I mean by just mixing songs of the same genre right now. This is a medley that is based on Rag Yaman. So I've chosen 3 songs that are based on Rag Yaman, and I've just put it together. Very simple. And this is why I call it Fusion Phase 1.0. Is my piano audible?
Yes.
Okay. चंदन सा बदन चंचल चितवन धीरे से तेरा ये मुस्काना ये शाम भी अजीब है वो कल भी पास पास थी वो आज भी करीब है वो शाम कुछ अजीब थी जब दीप जले आना जब शाम ढले आना संकेत मिलन का भूल न जाना मेरा प्यार न बिसराना जब दीप जले आना जब शाम ढले आना. So that's an example of how I used to mix songs of the same style, that is my Hindi. But I moved further down the line and I realized that if I'm able to mix one genre, why can't I just mix the other songs that I know? Why can't I take my English songs, my Carnatic song, and put it together in a way that it seems seamless and smooth, and it's like a surprise factor for your audience? So that's what led me to this performance that really taught me what I was made for, because I got a standing ovation after this performance just because of one thing that you will see although I was pretty young and my voice is still growing, the idea was what actually gave me that standing ovation. So I'll just play that right now. Someone like you, I wish nothing but the best for you too. Don't forget me, I beg. I remember you said sometimes it lasts in love, but sometimes it hurts instead. Sometimes it lasts in love, but sometimes it hurts instead. Right. So that was the example that I was trying to show you. How people got so wild at the minute I started singing that alap part. I didn't even realize that, that was going to make people get so excited. I just thought, oh, maybe it just sounds good. I'm mixing Shankarabharanam with the song Someone Like You, and maybe that sounds different, but people didn't expect it. I knew I was going to sing it, but I didn't think of people's minds and them not knowing that, oh, this is going to come next. And that's when I realized that if I'm able to use all my knowledge of different art forms and put them together in a way that I can please someone who's not even into music, then that's exactly what I want to do, because then I can reach out to more number of audience. So I'll move ahead to my next piece. If just to elaborate on this piece, this was Someone Like You, which is the English part. And then I went into an alap based on Rag Shankarabharanam. And then I did a classical song, Nera Manchakora, and followed by Sufi, which is not in this clip, but I did end with a Sufi piece. So I tried to bring in as many art forms as possible. Yes. Of course, that was when I was around 13 years old. And 3 years later, 16 years old me got into Indian Raga. If you all don't know what Indian Raga is, it's a popular YouTube channel that's become really famous over the past few years. They're absolutely, I think the most famous piece of theirs is Shape of You, and I'm sure all of you have heard that Shape of You, the classical remix. That's a dhom tana tana dhom dhom tana tana dhom dhom agapa. You must have heard this somewhere or the other. So this is what made them famous. And I heard this piece and I said, okay, I want to be on this team. I want to do this too, because this is exactly what I was trying to do. And if there's already an organization that's into it, why not? I mean, it's a great opportunity. I got into it 6 rounds of elimination. I did not know that. And we had to collaborate with people from all over the world. The man you see on the screen is from the US, and I did not know what he looked like or who he was until I saw him in Mumbai. So that's an example of how we collaborated, being in different places and not knowing each other until the video shoot happened. So the whole process went like this. You would be forced to collaborate with a person from a different genre. For example, I'm Carnatic. Say I'm going as a Carnatic vocalist, but I have a jazz artist coming in and they say, okay, you both are put together. You have to come with a YouTube video that matches and you both have to sing on the same background track and make it interesting, and it has to go viral. I was confused at first. I said, okay, I can understand if you're saying Western pop, but why are you saying jazz? How am I supposed to mix Carnatic with jazz? So that made me realize that sometimes you have to force yourself to move out of your comfort zone. And if you're a conventional Carnatic artist, you would know that I'm not supposed to go out of the Arohanam, Avarohanam, and Raga. That's wrong. But if you're given a chord progression from jazz or blues, for example, it sounds absolutely absurd. You don't know what's happening. You're thinking which swaram would actually match this chord. And it sounds so good when they're singing it in their style. But as soon as I put Carnatic, it sounds weird. But no, there is a way to do that. And that involves a lot of complex Western techniques, which I also learned through my years with an organization called Tacademy. This song, for example, is a pop song called Cheerleader, where we used the background track of the song, just a normal Western pop background track, and we included some Carnatic swarams in between. And we decided that Bilahari is a ragam we're choosing. Cheerleader sounds like it's based on the ragam Bilahari. We decided. It's not that the composer of Cheerleader said, okay, Indian music-wise, this is Bilahari. We found out. We dissected the swarams of each of the tunes. Ooh, I think that I found myself a cheerleader. We said, okay, that's Sapa, Dapaga, Papa, Magari, Pamaga. And that's Bilahari, right? So we said, okay, let's bring in swarams from Bilahari. So I'm going to play this. You'll understand what I'm saying. So that's one example. And in the same song, at the end, so that was Cheerleader. And this also became pretty famous because of how there was already a westernized track in the background, but you do see tabla, you do see violin and a flute. So if you notice in the background track, there's a drum kit, there's a synth pad, there's a bass guitar in some places. So no one actually realizes this because it all seems so well matched if you listen to the whole thing. So that was our aim. This was when I understood how we could actually fuse music, not only vocal wise, but also instrument wise. You don't have to have mridangam or shruti box or tanpura always when you sing Carnatic. You can put it over anything and still not dilute the art form. Okay, so I think this is covering, yes. So this is called Disney Challenge. This is just for the kids over here in case you've heard the Disney theme song. I hope you have, because I'm a big Disney fan. And I'm going to play it and show you how I would sing it in the alap pattern. And then I want to show you how I convert it into swarams, but I also want you all to try and figure out what the swarams are. So I'll come back to this in 10 minutes and ask in the chat box if anyone actually tried to figure out what swarams this tune has. Okay, I'll play it for you once. And it's not very easy, I'm telling you, because you should try hard. All right. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. So that's the Disney theme song, right? Now, if I sing it in the alap form, I hope you're able to hear me. Yeah. I didn't make it too classical. It didn't sound like I'm putting too many gamakams, but that's the point. I'm trying to make it light, but I'm still giving you the idea that I'm singing Indian. I think all of you figured out that the second time was Indian and I wasn't doing a Western ooh, 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 That's very different from doing there's a difference, right? In the tone itself you can make out. So that's the challenge for you. If you want, I can tell you now. Do you want me to tell you the answer to the swaram now? I can't open my chat box. So could someone... Okay.
We'll wait for a couple of minutes.
Wait for it.
Yeah. It's a challenge. Okay. So let them take it up.
Sure. All right. Your pitch is sa, pa, sa. So try to figure out what the swarams are. All right, so moving ahead, we'll come back to this. Now, fusion phase 2.0. Why have I named it 2.0? Because at this point, I realized that I don't even need lyrics to fuse. Maybe I can just take my Manodharmam, Alapne, Kalpanaswaram, Neraval. Of course, I've not yet used Neraval in fusion, but I have used Alapne and Kalpanaswaram in this piece. If you can see, you don't need lyrics. So that was like, I was amazed when I suddenly woke up one night and I said, why can't I just use some swarams based on this song's background track and put it and convert the song completely? I'm just singing Western in the beginning and at the end of this piece, but the whole part in between, it's just my improvisation using swarams. So I'll play it for you. And remember one thing, this is not based on a ragam. I have conveniently used swarams out of this ragam. I have not stuck to an arohanam, avarohanam. I've not used any rules of any sort, and I've just gone with the flow. According to what I felt, I took the swarams and I put it in there. So I'll play it. I want you to know that I'm never leaving, 'cause I miss the snow till that will be freezing. Yeah, you were my home for all seasons. So come on, let's go. Let's hit the North Pole and live happily. Please don't cry, don't cheers now, it's Christmas, baby. Saga, 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 Yes. So this piece has so many different elements combined. Number one, very obvious, is I've used Swaram. Number two, in between I've used Alapne. And from the Alapne, I moved into baby. That's Western, right? So I moved from an Alap to a Western improv. And then I also made sure I used harmony, and that's a Western technique again that I brought into my Carnatic music. Wherever possible, I try to add harmony because people really like it, but they don't realize how you can use it even in classical music. It's not that I'm singing the wrong swarams in that harmonized part. I'm singing sa re ga in one part, da ni sa, but they're both together. When they're played together, they sound perfect. So that was Snowman for y'all. I hope you enjoy that, because that is the current stage I am in terms of fusion, where I don't really depend on any sort of lyrics or pre-composed tune to actually showcase the different art forms that I learn. Okay, I'm going to go to the next video. Writings on the wall. This is another example, just like Snowman, but the impact of this was different in the sense that I used Alapane. And I did a whole improv session with an Alapne and then came back to the Western part. I decided to do this live. So give me a moment.
Sorry to interrupt, Lapna. Children, please don't scribble on the screen, okay? It is not right on your part. Every time we have been asking you and requesting you, please don't do that. It disturbs the others, and I hope I don't have to raise my voice now. Please don't do that, okay? Whoever is doing that, please stop it, okay? Yeah, okay. Lapna, you can continue.
Yes. This is a normal Western pop song again. But what I tried to do was, there was an instrumental orchestral section in between. And I was performing this on stage, and I realized it's probably going to be boring for them to sit and watch me stand while the instrument is just playing in the background, because it's not live in the background. We don't have a live orchestra. It's just an automated track playing. So why can't I entertain them even in that small section? So that's what I tried here. Million shards of glass haunt me from my past, as the stars begin to gather and the light begins to fade. When our hope begins to shatter, know that I won't be afraid. If I risk it all, could you break my fall? And how do I live? How do I breathe? When you're not here, I'm suffocating. I wanna feel love run through my blood. Tell me, is this where I give it all up for you? I have to risk it all, 'cause the writing's on the wall. I wanna feel love run through my blood. Tell me, is this where I give it all up? So that's the example that I wanted to give you, where I did just an alap in the instrumental section. It was no rhythm. I hadn't planned it according to any rhythm. I just went with the emotion of the song. And what I also did here was I made sure I hit the super high note, which would excite the audience. I just wanted one excitement factor in every piece. And in this piece, I fortunately had two. One was the fact that I was doing an alap, and the other one was how I went, that's pretty high. So people like it when you try to touch really high notes. And that's again one more thing, building up your range. And I think doing different art forms definitely helps you widen your range. Now moving on, I till now have spoken about how vocals can be fused, vocals of different genres can be fused. Sometimes people are singing the same genre, but they sound, for example, I have a very high-pitched voice compared to someone who has a bass voice. And if we both sing Carnatic, obviously the person with the bass voice might sound a little more traditional than mine. Mine might suit Hindustani more than Carnatic, and I've heard that a lot. So it depends on whom you're singing with, if you're collaborating, or maybe you yourself can try to give different tones in different parts of the song. So over the years, I have built up on my bass aspect of my voice. I've tried to sound more thick. I used to sound really thin at one point, and then I worked on it. And then now I sound thick enough to sing classical without feeling like, my voice doesn't suit it. I give my own touch to the feel of Carnatic music. So here, I'm moving on to a separate topic where I'm saying maybe your vocals can be westernized, but your instruments in the background can be Indian. And that itself is a different form of fusion. I'm not saying that your vocals have to, be fusing with each other, or you have to have a Hindustani and a Western vocalist fusing. You both can be completely Western vocalists, but you're having tabla, you're having Geo Shred by Mahesh Raghavan, all of you know him also, and flute playing in the background, veena also. And how that itself sounds so magical. This video was just played at the beginning of the session, but now that I've explained to you what we have done, you'll understand it better. So I'll play it again. Your heart decides. I keep opening your eyes, take you wonder by wonder, over sideways and under, on a magic carpet ride, a whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. No one to tell us no, or where to go. Yes. So aren't you all amazed at how an electronic gadget like an iPad can be converted into a Carnatic instrument? I mean, that's his career right now. He uses his GeoShred to play Carnatic music, and that's something that really broke the boundaries or just went beyond Carnatic music itself. And that's why he's so popular. And we were so fortunate to work with him for this project because, again, I just gave the idea of saying, okay, let's do Whole New World. It's a very popular song. Kids would love it and all of that. But he said, okay, let's give it another dimension. I'll get all the Indian instrumentalists and we'll do a backing track for y'all. And you just sing your normal Whole New World, which is exactly what we did. But doesn't it sound even more interesting than, I wouldn't say even more, but it sounds as interesting as the original Whole New World that we've all heard. Yes? Okay, so Radhavenu again, this is also played, but it's just another example. I wouldn't have to play the whole thing, but just another example of how the production, music production, and by the word production, I mean the electronic part behind music, where you use your software and you use, your laptop. And if you've seen studios, you've seen people with headphones sitting for hours in front of a computer, doing something that you have no idea of. They're looking at waves and they seem to be understanding what the waves are telling them. And then they're, working with volumes, increasing, decreasing. They're saying, no, it's not blending well. And all this is actually more important, I would say, than actually singing, because everyone expects good quality music when they listen to it. Unfortunately, how much ever you try, if you don't know how to put it forward in the right way using technology, in this generation, it doesn't work. You don't get as popular, or it's not that appealing, I must say. Of course, live is a different issue altogether, but I'm saying in times of COVID, like for example, online, if you're doing everything online, you better know how to make videos professionally, edit it, cut, edit, overlap, all of that, because you're not going to be able to do it live. And who wants to hear just the same one voice singing in front of the Shruti box? And I would get bored myself personally. And one more thing I'd like to say, that as much as I'm talking about fusion, I'm not saying that you have to dilute the art form. I'm not saying Carnatic vocal is boring as it is. It's just that sometimes for non-musicians, it seems to be boring. For most of them I've spoken to, I said, why don't you like Carnatic music? Oh, I can't understand and it's boring. What do you even talk about? It's all words I can't even understand. So because of that, people started trying to make it more appealing by using technology, by using other art forms, and that's what you see now. And personally, I feel like it's a very good way to keep the art form going through the years, because I see more number of people trying to learn classical now than before, just because they know that there is this tiny space already made to make it sound more interesting, and people appreciate it. So, Radhavenu. That there's no mridangam playing here. There's there's that kind of beat in the background, and that's basically a drum, and it's not even a live drum. He's Mahesh Raghavan, when he was creating this, he just went to this app and he got this drum sound and he put it behind our vocals, and that's it. The song was made. It was complete already. He just had to add a few phrases of his GeoShred, and that made the piece complete with the flute and the veena. So I don't have to play the whole thing because Sawal Jawab session like Kalpana Swaram, but Sawal Jawab mainly between the instruments and the vocalist. So that's something we came up as singers. We said, okay, we want a Sawal Jawab session with the instrumentalist, and we added that in to keep that Carnatic effect there, because some people may feel like we've completely changed this into something else and they'll feel they wouldn't be happy with it. So we said, okay, we'll add a bit of a traditional aspect to it, and we kept that Kalpana Swaram part for the instrumentalists. So instruments have a big role in production these days. Now, moving on to a little more, Raravena, of course, is a simple song, Swarajati, easy to mix with Western music because it's ultimately just Swaram. Some people sing it in a plain manner, some people add gamakam. So either way, it's still just a beginner song. I'm trying to say that it's not only these simple songs that you can work with, but also full-fledged kirtanams or kritis. For example, this is Tamadam Tagadaya, which we did. And even here, we have used electronic sounds in the background, synth pads and claps and snaps that make it sound westernized partly. You will see. So if you've noticed how we have retained the beauty of Carnatic music, the Mridangam is doing its thing. We are singing pure Carnatic. We're not diluting it. And there's also Veena, but there's still something about the background track. There's a very loud bass guitar in the background. There's snaps going like this at points, and that makes it peppy, right? This is something a contemporary dancer also could dance to, apart from a Bharatanatyam dancer, for example. So we are just trying to open doors to various other art forms to use music in different ways. A Western or a contemporary dancer could use this, and sometimes vice versa. For example, if this mridangist was a cajon artist, which is an instrument that originated from Peru, mridangam cajon can play the jatis of the mridangam, and mridangam can actually play the rhythm of the cajon. So they can mix up, and that itself is fusion. So there are innumerable ways of how you could, use the word fusion in music and come up with different ideas to make any piece sound unique for that matter. That was exactly what I was explaining when I meant by cajon and using Mridangam Jatis. This is my personal composition. It's an original, which I came up with on spot. Still haven't done a professional recording of it because I'm waiting for the cajon artist to work with me and do it in the recording studio. But this is the recording of when we just sat down and we said, I want to do something in the ragam Charukeshi, because at that point I was just obsessed with the ragam, and I said, I'm going to figure out the notes of Charukeshi on my piano, and I will play random phrases on the piano, and you will just have to somehow merge your beats with my music in a way that it still sounds classical. What do you realize? Do you realize that I'm using a piano, I'm using a cajon, but I'm playing Charukeshi, and I'm asking him to do Mridangam Jatis on his cajon. It's a complete mix-up. I'm doing Carnatic classical music on a Western instrument. And it's so popular nowadays, but at that point when I composed this piece, I was shocked that I was able to do something like this. And you will listen to the audio here. What surprised me even more, that something on spot could sound this good. All right. So it's, of course, the cajon artist was amazing in the way that he is also blended into it. So you'd require people whom you work with to also understand what your idea of fusion is. I'll play it. So that was a small part of my composition. And here I want to explain, thank you, I want to explain how there were so many parts where there was this build up, which we call crescendo in Western music. You go soft and then you go with a particular pattern and you tell the listener that, look, this is where I'm going. I'm going to build, and then reach this climax where I hit the note that I want to, stress on, and the rhythm artist also is doing the same. But what I did here was I played completely Western based chords in that climax section, but I asked him to do a completely Mridangam based jati. So if you notice, it's like a Muktaiswaram sort of, where we're building up and then you get back to the original line. So this is what our idea was for Charukeshi. And that is one example of how instrumentalists itself can collaborate within themselves and do fusion. You don't even need a vocalist. So that's yet another way in which you can fuse. So are we ready with the Disney, or should I move ahead with my swarams for that? Has anyone come up with swarams? I don't see much about it in this comment section. Okay, I'll just go ahead and tell you what it is. Yeah. So I'll sing the Western part once. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. Okay, so that is Alapana Bagirath ni ni da pa ma pa sa re sa ni da pa ma ga re da ni sa. Okay, so that was basically the swaram, and already you see you're using re, re, da, which is so westernized. As soon as da, ra, ra, you go into this old retro western mood. But the same thing, I'm using two re's, right? It's not based on any ragam. There might be a ragam that has two re's, and again, mi and ma. Disney, of course, has so many extra notes in their music, and that's what makes it beautiful. But you can always take any line and make the swaram version of it. So that was just an example for you all to understand. Moving on with the strengths. Why am I bringing strengths into this? It's because as a person who has done different art forms, I realized that the Carnatic classes I went to created such a strong foundation for me in terms of range, in terms of understanding pitch, shruti, talam, rhythm, and tune, and how you can, express yourself through your music. And only because of that, when I started singing Western music, I'm self-trained in Western, I started realizing that if you actually have a good base, you know your notes, you know your shruti, you can do anything. And so many complex runs, as they call it in Western, is basically our fast brikas or gamakams in Carnatic music. But all of those were so simple. Sometimes it was just effortless. I could just think of it as a gamakam and sing it in the Western style. So Carnatic music has been a very strong pillar for me. And I think it is for every musician. It should be. Not only saying that as an Indian, maybe you should learn Carnatic or Hindustani as your base. If you're doing Western music as your passion or career for that matter, Western classical music also is a very strong base. You have to learn the theory, the technical aspect, all the theoretical knowledge about your Western music, the notes, how to read notes, all of that is very important, even if you want to ultimately become a pop singer, for example. Some people don't need it, but it definitely adds a whole new dimension to your vocals if you do have a classical base. So now moving on to strength number 1, which is versatility. And that is something that people say I have in me. And here's an example of me just singing an alap for a Hindustani piece. Hindustani again is not something that I have learned, but since people kept telling me, oh, you have a voice similar to Shreya Ghoshal, maybe you should try Hindi. I said, Hindustani. I said, okay, maybe I'll try it. I don't know if I'll actually be able to give that feeling of Hindustani, but people enjoyed it. I put this up on YouTube and I had really good response. So this is a ghazal, okay? So ghazal is another art form where you don't really stick to the ragam. You're allowed to go out of the aronam, avronam of a particular ragam because it's more based on bhavam and how you express the meaning of the lyrics of that particular song. So this was my ghazal attempt, I would say. So that's versatility. I tried to do as many art forms as possible. And one thing that comes over there is teachers. So teachers have played an extremely important role in my life. I personally have had multiple teachers. I have not had just one teacher teaching me throughout. And not only have I had multiple teachers from one genre, but different genres. I've had Western, I've had Carnatic, I've had teachers just teaching me music composition. So overall, it's extremely important to know that it's okay to transfer from one teacher to another, and it's okay that they have different styles, because going through that, I have actually, imbibed so many skills from each of those teachers, and I have parts of them in me right now. Everything that I do is a mix of all of them, because every class I went to, I took the best of all my teachers individually and tried to come up with something different of my own, using all their advice and suggestions and their ideas. So that helped me become versatile. And they also encouraged me. That's one more thing. They need to realize what you're capable of, your potential, and then also be okay with you doing a style that's not something they teach. If you get into Carnatic, they should be okay with you doing Western, and that's when they actually encourage you to, mix the two, and they help you out with some of your fusion ideas and tell you maybe you could do this and that. And that's very nice to hear from a teacher, because then you know that if your teacher is accepting the fact that you're fusing it this way, then you're probably doing it the right way and you're not diluting it in any way. So teachers, of course, are very important. And with their support, I think you gain so much more confidence than you would have otherwise. Here is an example of a Docomo. So if you've heard the Docomo theme song, the phone company, they had this theme song, and I suddenly remembered it, and I said, okay, I'm going to make a classical version of it. And not only classical, but I decided I'll make it an a cappella version of it. So a cappella now means you only use your voice. You don't use instruments. And anything you do with your voice box. Even percussion, you beatbox, or you make sounds that sound like percussion. This is an example. I'll play it and then I'll explain. again, here we have different things happening. One is harmony. If you've heard toot toot toot, I'm doing another harmony to that, and even in sa sa pa, that's basically dokumo, 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 dokumo. So I use that, and I did sa sa pa, because that is the swaram to it. Okay, and in the background, I'm doing bum 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 bum. That's what I'm doing in the background, and to harmonize that, bum 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 bum. So I put all of these layers together. This is where again technology comes in. If I did not know how to overlap my voice on a software like I use GarageBand, for example, I wouldn't have been able to create something like this. So learning how to put these things together, harmony, editing it correctly, blending in the volumes, if you learn that, you have all the power. No one can stop you. You can do anything. So again, here coming back, I use swarams, I mixed it with and that's the western part. Same thing, but in a Carnatic form. I'm using the same baseline notes, but I'm doing so much more with it to make it sound Indian. So this again got me so many wishes and compliments, and they said, wow, Docomo should listen to this. And I realized that people really do like listening to something different. And especially when you bring back something old in a different form, that's what they like even more, because it's like a refresh to them. Like, okay, wow, I couldn't imagine that song played like this. Popular songs, of course, they're still getting used to it. But as soon as you bring an old song and you put it in a new way, people are surprised. To explain what harmony exactly is, I made this small clip. I'm singing the song Shukranala, just those 2 lines, but I'm showing you how I add on each layer of harmony. Shukranala, alhamdulillah, Shukranala, alhamdulillah, Shukranala. So that was 4 layers in total. I think even just the first line would have sounded complete if because I added the echo and all of that. It still sounded good enough. But as soon as you started hearing the second layer, and then in the third layer, I added 2 more harmonies. I didn't do it as 4 different takes. I just did 1, 2, and 3. But the third one has 4 different frequencies going on. Shukranala, 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 shukranala. All of these put together. And already it sounds so complete. You don't have to have a percussion going on in the background. You don't need instruments. I have just used my voice. And that itself has created a piece of its own. So that's an example of how you create harmony. It's pretty simple, actually. If you look at it swaram-wise, if you take sa, the best combo, I would say, is ga and pa. Sa, ga, pa, which is? If I play to you on the keyboard, I'll take a different pitch. Sa, pa, sa, right? That is our normal sa, pa, sa. Suppose you do sa, ga, pa. Together they sound like this. And sa, ga, pa, sa. So that all of these are harmonies, and harmonies converted into vocals is what I just showed you right now. Okay. Again, if you learn an instrument, that's a big plus point, because you would already know this if you're into piano, guitar, and all of that. That's why learning instruments is one more thing you should do, especially in your childhood. Once you learn an instrument through the years, when you're settled down and you have your vocal aspect, you're strong, you know which style you're into, you always have that instrument to back you up. You don't need another person. You can accompany yourself, go anywhere, and have your own performance as a solo artist. Now, strength number 3, range. Like I said before, I worked on my higher notes because I realized that I had the potential to go really high, and that's not something everyone can do. And of course, there are people who can go really low, and that's also a very good thing. But since my talent, I would say, I heard that people say, okay, this girl can go really high, you should ask her to sing high notes. So I try to use that in this piece, and it's again a Chakravakam based piece, the Ragam Chakravakam. And I did, this was given by Ambi Subramaniam sir, and he gave a challenge. He said, this is our fun with Chakravakam challenge, and we are going to give you a backing track. You can do whatever you want on the backing track. And I decided to do Swaram improvisation. And this got 60,000 views in one day, only because I touched that high note. So there I reached this super high note, and I would actually say that I learned how to do that when I started singing Western music, and I was introduced to terms like falsetto and tenor vocals and all of that. And they taught me how to go high. And of course, when you learn Carnatic, they say you should throw your voice when you go high. Very good. That's a very good thing to do. But I also feel like in some places, when you make it subtle, but you're still going really high, that sounds equally beautiful. Sounds a little, I like the first one more because it sounds a little more subtle to my ears. And when you need to be full throated, yes, but there's also another accepted technique to sing high, and that's what I learned from Western music. So again, learning different art forms will introduce you to concepts that your art form probably doesn't accept as okay or acceptable, but other art forms actually use it as a common everyday singing technique. So this is an example of that. And of course, my Carnatic training helped me in the whole Swaram pattern, because to be able to sing this fast also requires practice. And I had to practice this particular section so many times to get it in that pace, right? It's not easy to sing that fast. So you have to keep practicing your ideas, make sure that you remember what you do. And sometimes you might come up with an idea and forget about it the next second. So record it or write it down somewhere so that you don't lose it. Now coming to another aspect, which is performance. As much as talent, singing, being able to sing well, all of that matters. Nowadays, presentation matters also. People want to see something that looks good. Not only a blurred video, low quality, you singing on stage, there's echo, there's people talking. No, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear something in a studio, dim lights with a mic, you look good, and then there's sparkling background effects, and then there's sound effects of what the studio sounds like and things like that, and people like to watch things like that. So I tried to do something similar. In this video, I chose a Disney song again. This is Part of Your World, and it was the first time I actually try to do a video on a large scale, in the sense that I went somewhere else to do the shoot. I went to Mahabaleshwar, and we had a whole video crew team taking my video, and they had people just to do my makeup touch up, and it was overwhelming. I did not expect it to be that grand, but what came out was this. I just don't see how a world that makes such wonderful things could be bad. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything? Look at this trove, treasures untold. How many wonders can one cabin hold? Looking around here you think, sure, she's got everything. I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's it's and what's it's galore. You want thingamabobs? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. So I felt like an absolute princess doing this, because it felt magical, and I had this actual waterfall in the background. What you see is not computerized anything. It was a real waterfall behind me, and that added so much more emotion. I started to act out what I was singing, and that itself brings in another aspect that's theater into music. You sometimes will have to act out, add in extra emotion to your singing to convey your message through the song. And in this song, I was a princess, according to the song, so I had to act like one, and I had to be all gentle in my movements and say, I want more, and act like I actually really wanted what I was saying. So that conveys the message even better than just singing, standing in front of a mic and singing the same thing. Movement, color, and landscape, backgrounds like this. All of this matters, visual presentation. Similarly, I was called to do a Tamil song actually for a short film, and this was originally composed for women empowerment. It's a Tamil song completely, and I had never actually done Tamil in the form of something that's completely new to me. I had heard songs from movies, and I used to sing those, but not something that I never heard, and I had to learn it and be the first one singing it. So they made me the singer for this short film, and they gave me the lyrics. Okay, this is a small video of how it happened, how the recording process happened. They put me in this tiny studio, and they said, these are the lyrics, this is the tune, now sing it. I said, okay. I first had to explain the meaning to me, because I had to know exactly what they meant by each of those lines to be able to bring out that emotion. And as I read it and they explained to me, I realized this girl in this woman in the lyrics that they've written has attitude, and she's trying to show that she has all the power and you can't do anything to her, and she wants to show the world that she is a woman. The whole point was, you want to make sure that people understand how strong a woman is. As much as I had been singing soft songs, sounding, babyish sometimes, cute, I had to suddenly sound empowering. I had to sound strong. So then I had to convert my tone into something else, and that took some time. And I had to sound loud and strong. Like in this video, you would see that I'm trying to, when I'm singing, oh, I didn't know that I could actually sound, like those girls who actually have an attitude and they go on stage and they move around and they act like rock stars. I wasn't that kind of person, but I had to bring it out in the song. So sometimes you'll have to bring out emotions that's not you, but you'll have to get into that character to bring it out. I'll just play this video. Yes. So that was what I recorded. I had to sound strong. Pen paravegalum nagal kaatre engalukku edupada. Like I'm trying to convey a message and I'm saying, listen to me. Then I thought, okay, it ends there. All that emotion ended there. But no, when we had our video shoot, and then they added a whole other dimension. They said, no, act it out now. And we are going to put all this lighting that will add on to the meaning of the song. And this was the result. Right, so even here, the visual presentation converted the song into something completely different. I did not see this coming. When I went to the studio, I said, okay, I'm going to sing a simple Tamil song based on women empowerment. But then they made me do all this. And I said, okay, I'm not sure what the result is going to be. I hope it still looks like me, because this is not someone I am. I still can't believe that person in that screen is me. I didn't expect myself to be that confident, but I had to be, right? I was put into that situation and I turned into something else for those few minutes. So then now coming to my teaching experience, little did I know that at the age of 20, I would start teaching or instructing small little kids who just started learning Carnatic music. And I would start teaching them in a way that's never been taught before. And this is, of course, with Indian Raga. They have an online school called Raga Labs. And if you're interested, you can definitely join. We teach Carnatic music mixed with Western. So we help them relate the two art forms by making them sing each of those Sadli Swarams, Geetams, of course, but we also choose songs like Million Dreams and Small World and convert it into Swaram and tell them, hey, this is exactly what you're learning. This is based on Shankara Bharnam. You have Janti Swaram happening here. You have Sadli Swaram happening here. You have the song, 'cause every night I am bed, the brightest colors fill my head. There's a song like that. We tell them that Papa sa sa ri ri ga ga, Papa ni ni sa sa ri ri, samal ga ga ri ri, sa sa ri da. You have Janti Swaram happening there. So as soon as we teach them Janti Swaram, we teach them this song. And we say this song uses Janti Swaram. So this is an example of that. This was also played, so I'm not going to play the entire thing. Gamapa magari, gamapa magari. Okay, so you already noticed that we're introducing Kalpana Swaram, the concept of Kalpana Swaram to such young kids by saying that you'll get this amount of time to sing Swaram and then you'll have to sing It's a Small World after that, which is basically like saying you have to sing the Pallavi after this Swaram section. So that was what we explained through our teaching over there. Lastly, this is something that I tried to do in the past year. I must say I'm a big fan of Broadway, and this is something that led me to try out musical theater, where you not only use your voice to sing, but you're trying to convey an emotion through your voice, you're trying to act through your voice, plus you're doing some actions, you're moving around, so that requires 10 times more stamina than usual. I'll show you a part of that.
Just you wait, angry again, just you wait. You'll be sorry, but your tears will be too late. You'll be broken, how money will I help you? Don't be funny, just you wait, angry again, just you wait. Just you wait, angry again, to your sake, oh. and you scream to fetch your doctor double quick. I'll be off the second lighter, I'll go straight to the theater. Oh, angry again's just too wet. Ooh, angry again's just to wait until you're swimming in the sea.
So like that. So I realized that maybe I can also act out what I'm singing, and that would bring another dimension into my musical journey. And people like that too. So I'm working on that right now. I'm trying to use my musical knowledge from various different fields and try to act it out and bring in theater. I did go for a few theater classes when I was little. So I try to use that. So all the kids in this meeting, please, please, please do as many activities as you can in your childhood, your school. Of course, you have your studies going on. I did too, and I still do. I have my MBBS going on. But if I've managed to balance it out till now, then I'm definitely sure you can. I used to go for classes every day, so please don't think that, you know, in 9th and 10th grade you'll have to stop everything. No, you'll obviously find one thing that you're really into and you're interested in. Keep that going, however hard it gets, and you'll know you'll reach somewhere someday, and you'll be proud of it. So this is one last composition. Of course, we're going through COVID right now, and something that's absolutely appropriate is to spread hope. And I did this piece called Ye Hausla, and this is again only my voice, and I've used the concept of harmony in this piece, and I'll just play it for you before we end. Oh no, sorry. I'll play that from here. So that was to spread some hope and hope for a better tomorrow. We're getting there soon. And one last message that I would like to give is, this is mainly for the kids. Listening to different forms of music is extremely important. In my journey, I had my grandfather and my grandmother who used to listen to different kinds of music. and sing to me, and that's what exposed me to so many different art forms. And because of that, I decided, oh, I like this. I heard Amama singing that. I want to learn that. I want to be able to sing it for her. And my tata always sings Carnatic music, and he says, I heard this Tamil song which sounded like this Carnatic song. So he said, so that's what, again, them connecting songs encouraged me to start connecting songs. So do listen to as many different genres as you can. It's very, very helpful in the long run. And practice, of course, I wouldn't say you need practice every day, because as an MBA student, I can't physically practice every day. But as long as you get some time to practice and you use it well, that's what matters. Because getting into competitions is I think one of the best ways to keep your practice going, performing, accepting opportunities to do small group meetings where you just have to sing live. That itself will encourage you to practice. It's okay if you can't sit for 4 hours every day and practice. It's okay. It's not going to make you lose anything. But when you do get the time, maybe in a week, if you get 2 or 3 days, use it well. You'll see so much improvement if you use just those half an hour and 1 hour that you get in different intervals. If you practice in those small sections, you'll see how much you'll improve. So being a medical student, the other day I heard doctor, he said that he finished his MD and he settled down and then he got back to music. That's amazing, because some people don't end up doing that, but he managed to do that in such a large scale. So what I'm trying to do over here is merge the two from the beginning itself. Use the creativity of music, the art of medicine, and try to heal with music. So that's my ultimate aim. Maybe psychiatry or whichever field. I'm still not old enough to know which field I want to do yet. But all I know is that if I've done so much in music, I want to use it to treat people and heal people and use it in a therapeutic way, because it does make people feel better. And if it can help people with mental illnesses, that's even better, right? So that's my aim. And if I do get there, then it's because of everyone's support, encouragement, all my teachers, my family, and all of y'all who have supported me to reach where I am right now. And I'd like to thank you for that. I'm just trying to see if I missed out any points. Yes, I think. Yeah, that's about it for now. If you have any questions, you can definitely go ahead. Once again, I'd like to thank the entire team of Udupi Shining Stars and Sarita Auntie for giving me this opportunity. I'm sorry if it was too long, but I was just trying to explain all the different steps that led me to where I am right now and what I do right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alapana. We are spellbound. Seriously.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It was mesmerizing. It was a fantastic session with you. I hope, as I have been telling all my other musicians who had come earlier, last 5 days, I mean, the alternate days, I think we should all meet together and we should have a session on all these things and get together, on the music. It would be an awesome time for the music lovers. Okay.
Yes.
All the best for your future in your in your studies, in your music and your healing part, whatever